All right, so here is the 2.5 to 2.7 quiz solutions. Again, a lot of silly mistakes, but some things that we really do need to emphasize and go over here. So anytime we're talking about the greatest common factor, you got to remember, you look at the number each term can be divided by. In this case, it's 4, so we're going to pull out a 4. Not every term has an x, so you can't pull out any variables. Then to figure out what goes inside the parentheses, I divide each term by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so you get x squared left over. Negative 12x divided by 4 is minus 3x. Then here, 24 divided by 4 is plus 6. Okay? You must have your final answer written like this because it has to end up being equivalent to the original equation. The next one. Look, the common factor between 9 and 27 is 9. Here I have x squared, here I have x. They have one x in common, so that's your greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 9x. And when I do that, I get x left over here because 9 divided by 9 is 1. X squared divided by x is x. Minus 27x divided by 9x. All right, 27 divided by 9 is 3. In this case, the x's eliminate, and this is what we have. So for each of those, you could actually stop there. Now here, it says factor the quadratic trinomial when a is equal to 1. That just means there's no number in front of x squared. It's actually 1, but we don't really need to compensate for that. We just say to factor these problems, we're going to find the numbers that multiply, right, to give us the constant, and add up to give us this. So what numbers multiply to give you positive 56 and add up to negative 15? That is going to be negative 8 times negative 7. Okay, so when we factor it, x minus 8, x minus 7. And I could do a quick check if I wanted to by multiplying these out. X times x is x squared. X times negative 7 is negative 7x minus 8x plus 56. When I multiply these out, do I get what I started with? Yes, you would. So the next one, what multiplies to give you 48 and adds up to 14? That'd be 6 and 8. So x plus 6, x plus 8. The last one from this section, what multiplies to give you negative 30, adds up to give you 7, right? Now, the tough part here, there's a lot of numbers that multiply to give you negative 30, but you got to remember you got to have the right order with the right signs, such as positive 10 and negative 3. That multiplies to give you negative 30, and they add up to 7. So it's x plus 10 and x minus 3. Now, for 6 and 7, if you notice, now there's a number in front of x squared other than 1. How do we factor these? Remember, in class we talked about we make this x. And on this side, I have to make the numbers multiply to give me 5x squared. On this side, multiply to give me negative 6. So, right away, there's really only one set of numbers to multiply to give you 5x squared. That's 5x and x. Over here to give you negative 6, right? Think about it here. I have to multiply to give you negative 13x. So the first numbers I'm going to start with are 2 and negative 3. Now think about it here. When I multiply across here, if I put the 2x here, or the 2 here, sorry, the 2, that means this is going to be negative 3. When you think ahead, right, that's going to give me negative 15x. This cross product is going to give me 2x. Do these add up to that middle term, negative 13x? Yes, it does. Therefore, when I go to factor, right, I write across this way, then I write across this way. So this factors out to be, this side is 5x. Since that 2 is positive, it's plus 2. This side is x minus 3. Okay? Now the next one's a little trickier because now you have more than one set of factors to give you that. I always like to start off with the smaller numbers, such as 5x, right? And 2x. These multiply to give me my 10x squared. Now I have to find numbers and multiply to give me negative 20. Now again, when I cross multiply and add them together, I should get negative 17x. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to probably go for negative 5 first, but I'm kind of going to try and think ahead here where 5x times 4, 2x times 5, would that work? Well, 20x, minus 10, that's not going to work. So I'm going to put the 5 here and negative 4 here. When I look at this, 5x times 5 is 25x. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. Will that give me negative 17x? No. Since I made a mistake, all I'm going to do is I got 17x. Now let me change the signs. So this becomes negative 25x. This is positive 8x. And if you add those together, you get negative 17x. So right away here, I know this will be one binomial. This will be my other binomial. So how does this factor? 5x plus 4. And I go across here. And then the other one is going to be 2x. Then this is negative 5, so it's going to be minus 5. Okay? Now down here, we have several different types of factoring problems. The first one, since that's 3, I know right away I have to use the x method. And this side, I have to multiply to give you 3x squared. This side, positive 10. So obviously, there's only one set of factors here, 3x and x. Now, 10 has a couple different factors, but I need to add up to negative 11. So let's start with, let's go 5 here, 2 here. That's going to give me 15x and 2x. Will that give me negative 11x? No. So right away I know this isn't going to work. Right? It doesn't even get me close. Okay? So I'll try another set. Say we put the, say we put the 2 here and the 5 here. That would give me 6x here, 5x here. That gives me 11x. Uh-oh, I need it to be negative 11x. So let me make these both negative. So 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. If I add these together, I get negative 11x. That matches up. So this factors out to give me 3x minus 5 and x minus 2. So the next one, all I have to do here, there's no number in front of x squared other than 1. So now I just have to find the numbers that multiply to give me negative 20, add up to negative 8. Okay, now 4 and 5 is the most common one, but there's no way to get a negative 8 out of that. So I'm going to say negative 10 times 2, because negative 10 plus 2 gives me that. Therefore, this factors out to be x minus 10, x plus 2. And the last one, since there's a number in front of x squared, we're going to do this. But the one thing you want to see is 4x squared plus 0x minus 25. Since there's no x term, we're going to put 0x in here. So we have 2x, we have 2x, then negative 25 will go negative 5 and 5. Now, when I cross multiply here, the cross product should equal 0, right? So 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. And when I add these together, I get 0x. So this becomes 2x minus 5, 2x plus 5. Boom. Now, on the back side, okay, this is a review. Remember the vertex. is always at HK, but we always think the opposite of HK. So in this case, here's H, here's K. What's the opposite of positive 9? Negative 9, and K is negative 6, and that is the vertex. The axis of symmetry is always X equals H. It's the vertical line that goes through the vertex. So it's just going to be X equal, what's the X coordinate of the vertex? Negative 9. Done. For number 12, to find C, when we complete the square, remember all we do, take half of B and square it. So if B is 12, half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So in order for that to be a perfect square, C would have to be 36. On the next example, since there's a number in front here, we're going to group the first two terms, and we're going to pull a 4 out. So we'd have 4 times 4x squared divided by 4 will give me x squared, minus 24 divided by 4 is 6x. Now, I have to add something in here. What do I have to add in for that to be a perfect square? Well, I'm going to say half of negative 6 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. That's what I would have to, excuse me, that's what I would have to add in there. But here's the thing you have to understand is I made 4 squares and I needed 9 boxes for each square. So 4 times 9 is 36. So that would have to be 36 in order for it to be a perfect square. Okay? Now down here, when we complete the square, to find vertex form, this is not a perfect square, so I grouped the first 2 terms. I'm going to have x squared plus 14x plus some number, right? Plus 4, but I'm also going to have to subtract that same amount I add in. How do I find this number? Half of 14 squared is going to give you 49. So if I add 49 here, I have to subtract 49. So now my vertex form, this is equivalent to x plus 7 all squared. Remember, this number is always going to be half of b. But then 4 minus 49, right, is going to be minus 45. And now my vertex is at the opposite of 7 is negative 7, and then negative 45. That just like the top. Now I'm going to kind of go fast here. So here, it's not a perfect square, so we group. So I have 3 times, divide these by 3. You get x squared plus 4x. But now I have to add some number. Then I have to come out and subtract that same number. So what is half of 4? 4 divided by 2 squared. It's going to give you 2 to the second power, which is 4. And now 3 times 4 is 12. So what do I have to subtract on the outside? 12. But this now becomes 3 times the quantity. That's x plus 2 all squared. And then negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20. Oh. So now my vertex here is at opposite of 2 is negative 2, and then negative 20. Okay, now the last one here, if I look to determine if it's a max or a min, if it's a maximum, it's at the peak, it's the highest point. If it's a minimum, it's the lowest point. Well, how do we determine if a parabola opens up or down? We look at A. If A is negative, it opens down. If A is positive, it opens up. Since A is negative here, we know it opens down, and we could say the vertex is a maximum here. All right. So hopefully this helped. If you have any additional questions, please come see me, period 2. Have a good night.